Deforestation of the Brazilian Amazon continued at a record high through June. The United States reported a new record number of 63,000 new COVID-19 cases in the last 24 hours on Friday. Demonstrations were seen in Mali's capital Bamako on Friday, demanding that President Ibrahim Keita resign. From the headquarters of Telesur English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South, and I'm Katrina Goss. This Friday, it was reported that deforestation of the Brazilian Amazon continued at a record high through June. According to Brazil's National Institute for Space Research, deforestation alerts were detected in over 1,000 square kilometres in June, marking a new record for this month since 2015. This is the second consecutive year in which deforestation is on the rise in the Amazon rainforest, coinciding with the presidency of Jair Bolsonaro, who maintains a policy in favour of illegal logging and mining activity in the region. And also in Brazil, citizens are carrying out face-to-face and symbolic actions in the framework of the National Day of Mobilization against President Jair Bolsonaro. Social and trade union organizations have held meetings in workplaces, as well as organizing symbolic events in the streets to reject President Bolsonaro's handling of the COVID-19 pandemic. They also denounced the irresponsibility of the president, who insists on promoting the reopening of the economy despite the rising numbers of coronavirus cases in the country. Brazil is the second hardest hit country in the world by COVID-19 and reported almost 10,000 new cases this Friday to bring its total to over 1.7 million. Turning to Colombia, the March for Dignity has arrived in the capital, Bogotá, after a fortnight's journey, with the aim of denouncing systematic persecution and violence against social leaders, human rights defenders and vulnerable communities. The movement, made up of social leaders, campesinos, indigenous peoples and human rights defenders, arrived in the Colombian capital from Popayán in the department of Cauca. During the march, the protesters voiced complaints from social organizations and victims of violence in each community that made the journey to the capital. Demonstrators also denounced the effects of political, economic and social measures imposed by the Colombian government that openly violate fundamental rights and favor powerful sectors.
On our 15th day, this March for Dignity, for Life, for Human Rights, we invite you to this mobilization. I want to say this is a work of all, and that as a regional indigenous council, our companions also waited for us today, and I'm very grateful for this support. They have arrived with their scenes to support this mobilization with their different experiences and paths they have taken in this process.
Chile's judicial system accepted a lawsuit against President Sebastián Piñera on Thursday for allegedly not having properly supervised the measures that his health ministry took to deal with the COVID-19 pandemic. The complaint was filed by the Chilean Human Rights Commission and other civil society organizations. In a joint statement, the organizations stressed that the defendants committed gross negligence and announced that the measures adopted by President Piñera and former Health Minister Jaime Mañalich have resulted in the deaths of thousands of Chileans as a result of COVID-19.
Nunca más la clase política en forma transversal.
Never again politicians must feel that they are immune to the consequences of their actions and untouchable in the face of their decisions and the power they wield. Today, with this lawsuit that will be submitted all over the national territory, the plaintiff will be grouped by province to claim for the death within their province. Once they submit the data, they will be contacted in a reasonable amount of time to explain them the steps that they must follow and how the sponsorship will be delivered to the lawyers, in this case to me, being the attorney in charge of this case.
The total number of COVID-19 cases worldwide has now surpassed 12.5 million, and almost half of them have been reported in the Americas. The United States is the hardest hit country in the world, with over 3.2 million cases and an official death toll of over 136,000. Brazil ranks second with more than 1.7 million cases, having reported almost 43,000 new cases on Thursday. Despite these figures, the presidents of these two countries continue to downplay the risks and push for the reopening of the economy against the recommendations of health experts. Our correspondent in Havana, Laura Palmera, brings us a roundup of news from the Caribbean region.
Thanks for the contact. These are the most recent stories and news from Caribbean countries for this Friday. So today, the Dominican Republic Health Minister informed about the current situation on COVID-19 pandemics. The Dominican Republic Health Minister Rafael Sanchez reported another 1,202 positive cases with the COVID-19, bringing the country's total to 40,790. The death toll reached 842, of which 13 were new deaths. The provinces with the highest numbers of infections are Santo Domingo, the National District, Santiago, and San Cristobal. Sanchez also announced that 1,112 people are in hospitals due to the disease, which means that 76% of the hospitals monitored by the health ministry are busy. These are 217 patients in the intensive care units, 118 in assisted ventilation. In the case of the capital, 101, 69 of them in ventilation, which represents 64% of the capacity, being the territory with the most critical situation of the disease. And in Haiti, the President Jovenel Moïse dismissed the Justice Minister today. According to a decree published by Le Moniteur newspaper on Thursday, Delille was replaced by Rockefeller Vincent, who was a general director of the anti-corruption unit. Delille gave a press briefing this Thursday and described gangs' actions as unacceptable. They marched through several Port-au-Prince neighborhoods carrying rifles and other weapons. Delille reached the government in March as a member of Prime Minister Joseph Jou's cabinet. He promised to fight armed gangs and insecurity, especially in Port-au-Prince. Due to the rising popularity of sea moss on the international market, St. Lucia is experiencing an increase in demand. Following a meeting held with sea moss farmers from the community of Alpicon, officials from the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries, Natural Resources, and Cooperative visited the sea moss plots in the south of the island. Parliamentary representatives stressed the importance of economic empowerment and reassured farmers of government support. Minister for Agriculture, Honorable Hezekiel Joseph, explained that with the growing demand for sea moss, the Ministry of Agriculture is committed to assisting with the issues currently being faced. And these are the most recent stories and news from Caribbean countries. Let's go back with you in the studio.
Thank you, Laura, and we're taking a very short break now, so don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. The United States reported a new record number of 63,000 new COVID-19 cases in the last 24 hours on Friday. Our correspondent in Washington, Jorge Gestoso, brings us the details.
A new record of cases of coronavirus in the U.S. in the last 24 hours, 63,000 cases, totaling 3,250,000 cases in the country, over 136,000 deaths. Americans are not happy the way that President Trump is handling the pandemic. According to an ABC News poll, 67% of Americans disapprove the way that President Trump is handling the COVID-19 pandemic. And President Trump has canceled a rally that he was having scheduled for tomorrow in New Hampshire, officially because of bad weather. And definitely there's a growing rift between his authorities of health and himself regarding the pandemic. More and more, the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control, are disagreeing with the way President Trump wants to reopen early the schools in the country. Same thing with Dr. Fauci. And this is having a very important impact in the economy. There is 50 million Americans that has been requesting benefits for unemployment. At least 20 million continue to be unemployment, and definitely that is helping the opposition. In this case, Joe Biden is criticizing very highly President Trump, that he sees the possibilities of re-election evaporating pretty quickly. We get back to you now.
Mexico has called on Canada to arrest and extradite Thomas Cerrón, the former head of investigations into the Ayotzinapa 43 disappeared student teachers. Foreign Minister Marcelo Ebrard announced the beginning of the process with Canada to ensure the extradition of the former head of the Criminal Investigation Agency, who was one of the officials involved in the case of the 43 student teachers who went missing in September 2014. An Interpol Red Notice was issued in March for the arrest of Thomas Cerrón, who fled the country on June 30th. He's accused of having witnessed and tolerated the torture of detainees in the investigation into the Ayotzinapa case. The latest move comes after the remains of one of the missing students was recently identified.
Now we are starting something similar in Canada with Thomas Cerrón. There will be no impunity. Part of our role in the Foreign Affairs Secretariat is to ensure that when there are cases of this nature, extradition occurs. It is something important for Mexican justice that those who have important trials in Mexico or cases in Mexico answer in Mexico for their acts.
The Director General of the World Health Organization has announced the launch of the Quitting Tobacco Initiative, which aims to provide access to alternatives and professional advice to help smokers quit. The initiative will be launched in Jordan.
Today, WHO is launching the Access Initiative for Quitting Tobacco, which aims to help the world's 1.3 billion tobacco users quit during the pandemic. Smoking kills 8 million people a year. But if users need more motivation to kick the habit, the pandemic provides the right incentive. Evidence reveals that smokers are more vulnerable than non-smokers to developing a severe case of COVID-19.
That is why I am beyond pleased that Jordan will be the first country to launch the Access Initiative for Quitting Tobacco. This emphasizes the fact that smoking addiction is a disease that needs to be treated, thus destigmatizing smokers who often feel blamed and shunned for their own addiction.
Italian Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte announced on Friday that it's possible that the state of emergency declared in the face of the COVID-19 pandemic be extended beyond the end of July.
The state of emergency doesn't mean we are not keeping the virus under control. Beware. So any extension simply means that we are then in a position to continue to take the necessary measures, even minimal ones, so you should not be surprised if the decision is to extend the state of emergency.
On Friday, spokesperson of the Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Zhao Lishang, stressed that the United States is not qualified to criticize China or the World Health Organization regarding their COVID-19 cooperation, since the country has abandoned its obligations on withdrawing from the WHO.
In contrast, the United States has kept shirking its own responsibility of inadequate epidemic response and disregarded the need of international solidarity to fight the pandemic. It not only announced to withdraw from the World Health Organization, but also politicized the anti-epidemic issue and is keen on shifting blame to and vilifying others. Now that the US has announced its quit from the WHO, what qualification does it have to point fingers at China-WHO cooperation? If the US really cares about the global anti-epidemic, the first thing it should do is to fulfill its due international obligation and commitment and cooperate with the WHO, including inviting its experts to trace the virus origin in the United States. May I ask Mr. Pompeo, can the United States do this?
With millions of candidates pouring out of exam rooms across the country, China's annual National College Entrance Exam concluded on Friday. The tough test is an essential step for students hoping to secure a place at university to study the course of their choice. More than half of China's provinces officially concluded the exam on Wednesday, but due to the different schedules, other provinces finished the process on Thursday or Friday. And East China's Shanxi province upgraded its emergency response for flood control from level 3 to level 2 on Friday. According to the Provincial Flood Control and Drought Relief Department, continuous rains have increased the water level of the Changxiang River in Poyang County to 3 meters above the warning level, to exceed the highest record of 1998. The local government has evacuated and relocated more than 8,000 residents, with no casualties reported so far. Local authorities set up warning signs on nearby roads to remind residents of the possible dangers. We have more stories coming up after this final short break, so stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. Demonstrations were seen in Mali's capital, Bamako, on Friday, demanding that President Ibrahim Boubacar Keita resign. Thousands of protesters gathered outside the Malian parliament and in the courtyard of a state broadcaster, claiming that President Keita has been unable to properly handle the country's long-running jihadist conflict and economic crisis. Meanwhile, the June 5th opposition movement, led by the influential Imam Mahmoud Dicko, had called for wide-ranging political reforms, including a new parliament and the formation of a transitional government. This is the third large demonstration in 2 months in Mali amid the COVID-19 pandemic. Kenyan authorities offered an update on COVID-19 cases on Friday, while noting that they are on the rise.
Today, our numbers of those who have tested positive have continued to rise above what we recorded yesterday. Out of a sample of 6,979, nearly 7,000, a total of 473 people have tested positive to coronavirus disease just in the last 24 hours. This takes our caseload to 9,448 for the positive cases from a sample of 2,006,584.
Demonstrations were seen in Jordan's capital, Amman, on Friday against Israel's plans to annex occupied West Bank territories.
We say to this entity and the head of this entity that his plan is only a dream. If he's looking these days to annex part of the West Bank, we are aware of the reality of this entity, that he plans to annex the whole of Jordan and Iraq and Egypt. Therefore, we will confront this entity with all our power until this entity ends completely, until this entity gets out from the whole of Palestine, not only from the West Bank.
All the decisions will not cancel the cause. The Palestinian cause is alive in the hearts of its people, so its annexation decision is only ink on paper. Our nation may stay weak and may not be able to send a message, but it will be alive again.
Egypt's armed forces have begun large-scale military exercises near the border with Libya in a move seen as a challenge to Turkey. According to local media, the Egyptian army has been preparing in recent days for the so-called 2020 decisive military exercise near the borders with Libya. The news comes shortly after the Turkish naval force announced its plan to carry out a major exercise off the coast of Libya in the near future. A local television channel reported that all the main branches of the Egyptian armed forces will be involved in these exercises on the western border, which are likely to add to the already tense relations between Egypt and Turkey. Officials in Nepal reported this Friday that 10 people were killed and 30 are missing due to landslides triggered by heavy monsoon rains. The deaths occurred when landslides hit 3 different spots around the resort town of Pokhara, located 200 kilometers west of the capital. Pokhara is popular among tourists and serves as a base for trekkers heading up to mountain trails. Just north of the area, a landslide swept through 2 villages in Mayadi district, damaging 37 homes. Roads were also blocked by mudslides, making rescue efforts difficult, while continuing heavy rain prevented helicopter flights. Landslides are common in the Himalayan nation during the monsoon season, which begins in June and lasts through September. Demonstrators have staged a sit-in near an oil production site in southeastern Tunisia. Oil production sites are common scenes of recurrent tensions with authorities in Tunisia, with protesters demanding jobs and investment. About 50 people, mostly youngsters, have been conducting a sitting for the past 2 days near the El Kamor oil site, southwest of the capital Tunis, located in the middle of the desert. Demonstrators set up tents and blocked vehicles demanding the implementation of an agreement reached after the clashes of 2017, which provides for the hiring of thousands of unemployed people from this marginalised region and the creation of a local investment fund.
We have been waiting for the implementation of the El Kamor agreement. The government is still in a state of hibernation. We are in El Kamor and we will go to the oil valve. We are going near the valve soon. Our objective is the valve. Let the government remain in hibernation. It must assume its responsibilities. We have to close the valve and that they don't come begging for it to be open, because this time opening the valve will not be easy.
And we've come to the end of this news brief, but we finish with a video of nurse Damaris Silva playing her violin down the corridors of one of the biggest and most saturated medical facilities in Chile, bringing a little comfort to staff and patients, many of whom are battling COVID-19. Remember, you can find these and many other stories on our website as well as social media. For Telesur English, I'm Katrina Goss, and thank you for watching.